This academic year, we've been studying God's wisdom, and this winter, we have been looking at different specific topics that God talks about through the book of Proverbs. We've talked about time. We've talked about friendship. And right now, we're talking about work. What is the purpose of work in a fallen world? What does God's wisdom have for us as we look at another week of weeds, barriers, difficulties, and the repetition of work we've already done to rebuild what has already fallen apart from last week? As we look at all of that, what does God's wisdom have to say to us about the purpose of work in a fallen world? And so we've talked about the fact that like every other issue covered under the wisdom of God, work requires a change of heart, requires a change of priorities, so that from the inside, we are committed to following Christ, following God's will, doing His work from the heart. And so we're going to explore that a little bit more this morning as we look at priorities. When the work is done, when you come home at the end of the day, in whatever state you're in, maybe bent over like these women making curtains here. By the way, I'm showing you prints and drawings from the Works Progress Administration in the 1930s for this series. I just love these. I could look at these all day. They're so wonderfully done. But, there's this sense of subservience here in this drawing in particular. Like the work is in charge, or somebody's in charge, and I don't really have a choice whether to do it. I'm just in it, and I got to keep going. There's even, as the sun seems to come into the room from a window behind us as we look at this painting, there's even a little hint of jail in the shadows on the woman's back in the foreground. Like, you're here, you're stuck, you can't get out. Maybe you have that sense of the work that you do. When you get home, what do you have at the end of the day? What could make you contented after a day like this one? What do you have? What are you building for your life outside of work that reaches your heart and revitalizes you for God's purposes in your life? What we're going to see this morning is that if you're building for the wrong priorities, if you've got the wrong goals, then even a good work ethic can imprison you in a life of despair. But if your priorities are the Lord's priorities, then your work ethic, no matter what you're doing, no matter where you are, no matter what your trade, no matter what your profession, your work ethic is serving Him. And that gives you something at the end of the day, at the end of the week, at the end of your working life. So let's talk about this further. We have two proverbs here to introduce the issue of priorities. In chapter 15 of Proverbs, I want us to look at verses 16 and 17. And so we have this wonderful proverb here. Better is a little with the fear of the Lord than great treasure and trouble with it. What are your priorities as you work? What are your priorities as you get ready for your career? You're getting the training that you need in school, and you're anticipating a lifetime of work. What's your goal? What's your priority? If your goal is the fear of the Lord, then you're going one direction. If your goal is great treasure, then you're going another direction. If your priority is God's priority, then the path before you may not lead to great treasure, but it will lead to the fruits of God's priorities. If your priority is human ambition, everything that we love about great treasure, the status that it gives, the sense of security that it gives, the freedom that it gives to please ourselves, if that's your priority, then your work ethic is building a prison for you. Let's think about the fear of the Lord. Let's go back all the way to August when we first started studying God's wisdom, and we saw the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Everything you know in life, everything that is good, everything that has security, depth, everything that gives you strength, everything that revitalizes your life, it all goes back to one thing: the fear of the Lord. And this fear of the Lord, so often people say, well, it's not real fear, it just means respect. Let me ask you something. What's the foundation of real respect? When there's someone in your life, you say, I respect that person. Isn't there always an element of, I really want to be on the right side of that person? Because that person, I have never seen that person err, deceive. I've never seen that person compromise his or her integrity. And I know that there are consequences for doing those things in relation to that person. And I don't want those consequences, even if it's the loss of their respect. There's always this element of trepidation saying, I need to take care here, because this person is significant in my life, and I will lose something if I lose this relationship. So I'm not buying this thing that the fear of the Lord isn't real fear. There's a lot to be afraid of with God. A lot. There's His holiness. There's His justice. Those two things alone are perfect. Nothing compromising them, nothing tainting them, nothing like what we see in the pretended holiness and the false justice that we have in this world. Nothing like it. It's perfect. It's flawless. There's His wrath. That wrath, because His holiness and His justice are perfect, that wrath is what our wrath is not. Justified. It's legit. It's well-founded. When God gets angry at this world and what we are doing with it, He is right to be angry. And so there are things that we need to take on board in our spirits and say, there's reality out there in the presence and person of God. And that reality is not going to bend to me and my wishes and my ambitions and my fantasies and my flaws. I need to bend to the reality of who God is. That's the fear of the Lord. So this proverb says, better is a little with the fear of the Lord. If you've got that priority on board in your heart and mind, but your resources are small, your economic weight is light, Your status is low. But you have the fear of the Lord. This is saying it's better for you. Because you have direct access and relationship with the ruler of the universe, and you understand something that the rest of this world does not. You've got a secret as to how this universe works. It works by His will and His design, not ours. You're way ahead. Better is a little with the fear of the Lord than great treasure, abundant treasure. So what is that? Riches, privileges, high status, freedom to do whatever you want. All of those kinds of things that we treasure so much. It is better to have none of that and the fear of the Lord than great treasure and trouble. Now, I want to tell you about this word, because it's not a generalized word. It's not like just any old thing that happens to you in life and causes you distress. It's a very particular kind of trouble. It's confusion, chaos, panic. It's that crowd, even mob mentality that just goes crazy, and sometimes for no reason. It's reactive, it's irrational, it's fear-based, and it's unstoppable. If you're in that crowd, when it tips and the crowd becomes a mob, you can't get out, not safely. You're in it, and you'll be doing well to come out of it safely. When that parade becomes a riot, when that bull market becomes a bear market, to go from preaching to meddling this week, when that mob mentality kicks in, you're in trouble. Because you're in it, and this thing is swirling around you. You can't stop it. There's no reasoning you can do to calm people down. The train has left the station, and this mob has turned. Now, you can have great treasure, but if the panic strikes, you have no greater defense against it than anyone else. You're equal with everybody, no matter how much you've got. If you're stuck in that panic with everybody else, what are you really going to do? Who are you really going to buy off to get out of it safely? This is saying and posing the question, what are you working for? What's your top priority? If it is great treasure, you can spend your whole life working for that. You can achieve it, and it'll still fall apart on you. This is a very pragmatic proverb here, and indeed all the Proverbs are. They're coming from a place of acknowledging this world is fallen. There is no security in it. You've got to deal with it. So what's your top priority? What would you rather have? Great treasure or the Lord? If you choose the Lord and the path of fearing Him, it has a tendency to keep you out of mobs. And it has a tendency to keep you out of the way of panics. It's a solitary trail sometimes, but you won't end up in a riot on a solitary trail walking with God. And so this is kind of a common sense proverb. Choose what you're going to serve, great treasure or the Lord. Here's the next proverb, verse 17. Better is a dinner of herbs where love is than a fattened ox and hatred with it. What kind of feast do you want? So you can work for the big feast all the time. You can work for the kind of life where it's the fattened ox, or whatever our equivalent of that is, the 5-star chef, or the great dinners out, or the great weekends partying somewhere. You can work for that kind of life, and you can get it. This is a room full of talented people in a town full of talented people. You can get it. It's achievable. But what's it worth if in the middle of all of that feasting there's hatred in your life? What does that feasting really give you but an escape from the reality that you're connected deeply with people who hate you and do not wish you well? What kind of reality do you want? Non-reality in the midst of hatred, escape, or love? Choose what you're going to build. Better is a dinner, perhaps that's too expansive a word. Better is a ration, might be more accurate. A ration of herbs, vegetables, where love is. I just have to say I am not a fan of vegetables. They tell me that vegetables are good for me. I don't actually believe that. I do what I'm told. I eat what I'm given, but I'm not happy about it. And sometimes I make that known. But this is saying, really, it's better to have a ration of peas. I have to say, I hate peas. Don't like the texture. If any farmers here who grow peas, I'm not against you. I'm not your enemy. I'm just saying, I don't like them. And there's a whole list of other things that I don't like, and I won't bore you with all of that. But I don't respond well to peas. But I'll have a dinner of peas with the people I love over a party with people I hate and who hate me any day. That's easy. And this proverb is posing you a question. What are you building as you work? What are you working for? What's your priority? If your priority is to build a life that is an escape from reality, you can achieve that. But why wouldn't you work for a different reality? Why wouldn't you work for a life of love? This is going to the purposes of work. And so, why do we do what we do? Do we work to pile up treasure for ourselves, or do we work to supply the needs of those we love and to secure a life with them so that our love can grow? If you're working to provision love, then you're going to work one way. If you're working to pile up status and treasure, you're going to work another way. For me, there was a key moment a number of years ago, probably 20 years ago. And some of my friends were involved in a ministry in Sacramento, the capital of California, and it was a ministry specifically to people of both parties in the state capitol. legislators, staff, people in the governor's office, sometimes the governor himself. And so some of my friends were involved in those circles, and they were involved in that kind of ministry. And I was a pastor about an hour and a half up the road in a little town called Orland, and my friends said, we really want you to come up to Sacramento, down to Sacramento once a week and teach in the capital. We want you to kind of take over that aspect of this ministry. And, it wouldn't be full time, but you would be perfect for this, and we really want you to do this. Now, I'll just tell you, I wanted to do it. It would have been a very good opportunity. It was right up my alley in terms of interests that I have, the kind of ministry that I want. It was just the perfect fit for me in terms of all of the ideal characteristics of ministry that I would like to do, except for one thing. I had this wife, and at that time, I think we probably had 2 boys by that point. We had at least one. Little guy. And so as much as I wanted this kind of career advancing move, I knew, and Bridget knew, it was the wrong move for the love in our household. And that you don't even have to do much math to figure that one out. Because we knew that this was not just about going and teaching a Bible study once a week. This was about a longer-term track to be on for that kind of ministry. And so I said, no, I don't think I can do that. And I don't think this is the right time. And I don't think I would be doing well by my wife and kids at this stage. So I don't think I can do it. And so they moved on. They got another person. That ministry moved on. That person came to be in charge of that ministry and is still there today, and he's doing a fantastic job, but it's not me. Now, you might be wondering, do I look back at that moment and say, oh, if only? No. I don't. This was easy. It was basic. It's not a hard decision. It's not. There's no anguish in it whatsoever, because the little guy who was like this is still in my life, and I love him, and we've got a bond that I would have broken by doing that thing. It's as simple as that. And the other guy would have been even littler, and I got a bond with him, and I didn't break it. And so what has that, to say nothing of the bond with my wife that I have not broken, what has that contributed to my life in terms of strength, in terms of joy, in terms of peace, in terms of all of the things that matter? You can't put a price on it. You cannot calculate it. I would rather have a little ministry with love in the home than great treasure, great status, whatever it may be, with hatred. Priorities. What are you working for? Let's look at an example of this from Genesis chapter 29. While you're turning there, young people, marriage rates are going down. Fertility rates are going down. And that's because more and more generations are making the decision that a household of love is not worth it. I want you to really think that through. I want you to project that out 50 years. A household of love is not worth it. Go make money. Go advance your status. Go fulfill your dreams. Okay? You can do it. You can. It's achievable. But who will you share it with? Who will you talk to at the end of the day? And who will ever listen to you? If you are the person who makes the ruthless sacrifices that you must make in order to achieve this unreal life, who wants to listen to that? Think it through. Don't make this mistake. It's catastrophic. Let me show you a man who made this mistake, and God walked with him and saw him through it anyway. This is Jacob. Genesis chapter 29. I want to pick it up at verse 15. It's a very famous story, and you know the story, but I wonder if you've really thought through the implications of this in light of God's wisdom in Proverbs 15. So Jacob is on the run because he's in conflict with his elder brother, to put it mildly. His elder brother wants to kill him. And so he's run. And he's run to relatives in Midian. He finds them. And he comes to Uncle Laban. There's so much in this rich story. But I just want to focus on a decision that Jacob made to pursue a fantasy life. And this decision built conflict into his whole world to the day he died. And the thing that is cautionary about this story is that driving all of this was a strong work ethic. Thing we admire most. A work ethic that just won't quit. This guy never gives up. He keeps going, keeps working, he's persistent, he's driven, he's all of the things that we want to be, that we tell our kids to be, and he is these things. But what did he build with it? Well, here's what he built. He loves a younger daughter of Uncle Laban, his cousin Rachel. Verse 17 says she was beautiful in form and appearance. And so Laban says, okay, you serve me for 7 years, and I'll give you my daughter Rachel in marriage. So, verse 20, Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed to him but a few days because of the love he had for her. He had it pretty bad. And his work ethic drove him on. Then verse 21, he goes to Laban after 7 years and says, okay, I've completed the time, give me my wife. So they make a great feast. They kill the fattened ox. Big party, big wedding. And Laban, after all of this is done, switches Rachel out for his older daughter, Leah, whom Jacob does not love. So Jacob is He is sinned against. He is defrauded by family. And he receives a wife who he does not want. And the next morning realizes what has happened. By the way, you might be wondering, how does this happen? Well, this is life before electricity. I think it's easy for us to forget what dark is. And so you got veils and you got dark. That's how this happens. So, just to clear that up. So he wakes up and it ain't Rachel. What does he do? What do you do? What are you working for? And you find out that all your hard work has just led to a fraud. And you're not going to get the life you want. And it's not what you thought it would be. And the fantasy that you've built up over all those years of working, the commitment that you've made, the assumptions you've made, the dreams you've had, gone. What do? Well, you can either have the priority of the fear of the Lord and say, the Lord has something for me in this, even in this. Or you can say, I don't care about the Lord. I want my life. I want my ambition. I want my fantasy. I'm going to get it. Which choice did Jacob make? He goes to Laban, says, you deceived me. Laban says, well, we don't really do this thing about giving away the younger daughter first, so I had to. But if you serve me another 7 years, I'll give you Rachel. And there's the moment. Right there. What do? Jacob says, okay, and becomes a polygamist. He becomes the first patriarch who is a polygamist. His grandfather, Abraham, not a polygamist. He's a sinner sexually, but not a polygamist. His father, Isaac, not a polygamist. He becomes a man with 2 wives. And he decided to do this deliberately because he wants Rachel. And he serves Laban another 7 years for her. You say, well, who can judge him for doing that? I mean, he did have it pretty bad. And he did have, for 7 years, his whole life planned out. It was all there. And so what do you expect the guy to do? His whole culture says this is not just okay, this is expected. You want to be a rich man of status, you're going to have multiple wives. The end. Abraham was kind of a wuss for not getting more wives, after all. He kind of went this low status route. He didn't have to, and he really shouldn't have. Same with Isaac. Shouldn't have done it, because a rich man of position and power in society simply does this. That's what you do. So, Jacob, let's go. Do what needs to be done. Okay. The Lord let him do it. Watch this. Look with me at verse 31. I don't know if you've ever heard a sermon on these verses. You probably have not. But I want you to look at them carefully, because they form the structure of the rest of Jacob's life to the day he died and beyond. These verses form the structure of Israel's life throughout its history. Here it is. When the Lord saw that Leah was hated, she has no choice in this. No wife does. She's got a husband. He doesn't want her. He makes that very clear. So the Lord saw that. Remember, the Lord's holy, and he is just. So he opened Leah's womb, but Rachel was barren. And Leah conceived and bore a son and called his name Reuben, because she said, because the Lord has looked upon my affliction, for now my husband will love me. Do you hear that? She loves him. She wants him to love her. That's all. It's real simple. It's very straightforward. She conceived again, verse 33, and bore a son and said, because the Lord has heard that I am hated, he has given me this son also. Again, the implication, this could change things. I got firstborn, Reuben. I got secondborn son, Simeon. And Simeon sounds like the Hebrew word for heard. The Lord heard me praying about the hatred that I live with. Verse 34, again she conceived and bore a son and said, now this time my husband will be attached to me because I've borne him 3 sons. This time, and maybe he will just at least have some regard for me as his wife. Therefore, his name was called Levi. Levi sounds like the Hebrew word for attached. So you see what she's saying to him. Reuben. Reuben. She hands him to Jacob, and his name means, see, a son. Here's another one. Simeon. The Lord heard me. Jacob. The Lord listened when I cried to him. Third son, Jacob. Attached. See? We're together. This is absolutely agonizing. Verse 35, she conceived again and bore a son and said, this time I will praise the Lord. Therefore she called his name Judah, praise. She is one of the mothers of Jesus. But at Judah's birth, she says, well, I guess this isn't about Jacob anymore. This is about the Lord and me. So I will praise him. We could go on because the description of this birthing competition goes on from in chapter 30, the next chapter, all the way to verse 24, when Rachel finally gives birth. Here's the thing that I want us to see. Jacob gets rich. He's working like crazy, and he's working well. He's smart, he's shrewd, and the Lord is with him. The Lord is making him wealthy. He is working to gain his best life now. And he got it. He got Rachel. You know what else he got? Hatred in his household. Murderous, malicious hatred that haunted him to the day he died. What are you working for? Your work ethic can build the prison of sin that keeps you locked away in animosity and shriveled up malice and bitterness until you hit the grave. Your work ethic does not make you righteous. It may kill you. What is God's wisdom for work? He's saying through Proverbs, through examples like Jacob and many others, work for me. Change your priorities. Make my priorities your priorities. And I will uphold you. He had upheld Jacob. Do you realize that? He gave Jacob a wife who loved him. If he had returned that love, what sort of life would Jacob have built? He would have built a house of love. It's that simple. So, again, the question, what are you working for? A couple of questions here. In a recent sermon, you spoke of the importance of economic growth in the blessing of a community. When is the pursuit of wealth noble? The men that I've known who had wealth and understood what it took to gain wealth and who were believers in the Lord Jesus Christ did not pursue wealth. They feared the Lord, and they pursued wealth in their fear of the Lord. And so what happens then is schools get built and funded. Homes for the elderly get built and funded through their expertise and through their funding and through their guidance of these kinds of projects. When a family loses their provider and there are 10 children, every one of those children goes to college through these kinds of men. Every one of them. And they are walking with the Lord today because those men were working for wealth in the fear of the Lord, saying, we're not just building great treasure, we're building a community, and this is what it means to do that. That is noble. It is high. It is a great privilege to serve with that kind of person. Men and women serve the Lord this way every day around the world. You'll never hear about it because they'll never talk about it. It's powerful. It's life-changing for a region. Another question. Should Jacob then have sent Leah away and then taken Rachel, or would he have lived with Leah for the rest of his life despite the deception? If the latter, are we just to accept betrayal and swindling and forsaking what we love? Not quite. We are not to accept swindling and forsaking and betrayal and pretend like, oh well, that happened. That's not the kind of thing this is. We confront it. We do what we can against it. But Jacob had an opportunity to do what his fathers had done. Both of his fathers had wives, one wife each, who were barren. And they prayed faithfully for their wives and believed and trusted God. You say, that's hard. That means I give up a fantasy life, my dreams, everything I really want, in favor of what God gave me through a swindle. Yes, that's what it means. That's following God. I am not saying this as a matter of theory. I am saying this out of repeated experience in a fallen world. Happily, it wasn't in my marriage. I got a great deal in my marriage. But we have seen some of the worst things that churches do. We have seen some of the worst things that individuals do, and every single time we resolve, trust God, move forward, do not sin in your anger. And I can tell you, God is powerful, He is gracious, He is good, and He provides and protects. And He will do the same for you, and He did the same for Jacob. Jacob's story was to go through the rest of his life learning how to fear God and watching God redeem and provide and protect even when he thought he'd lost the things that mattered to him most. At the end of his life, it was not Rachel who was buried in the family tomb. It was Leah. He made an act of repentance in the course of his life to the extent that he could. And so it's a much longer story that we don't have time to tell, but the main questions are, when you stop working, do you enjoy love? Are you building that kind of life? Is that what you're working for? Is that your priority? And if not, how would God's priorities change the way you work? This is where the gospel becomes deeply practical. It's where the rubber meets the road in the Christian life.